Due to limitations in transportation, at the end of the 15th century, Jews expelled from Spain could only settle along the Mediterranean coast and in certain parts of Western and Eastern Europe. With the development of transportation and navigation, by the 19th century, Jews leaving Europe were able to cross the Atlantic and reach the Americas. Before the large-scale migration of Russian and Eastern European Jews to the United States, there were already small Jewish communities in the country. These included the Sephardic Jews, Marranos, from Spain and Portugal who arrived in the late 17th century, as well as Jews from Germany and other Central European countries who arrived in the early 19th century, but their numbers were small. By the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861, starting in 1881, large numbers of Russian and Eastern European Jews began arriving in the United States, helping Jewish communities grow and develop significantly. Over the next 3 decades, the Jewish population in America increased from just over 200,000 to 2.5 million, a tenfold rise. This growth was largely due to Eastern European immigrants and also marked the emergence of a new center of Jewish life outside Europe. Eastern European Jews traveled to the United States by ship, enduring long and exhausting ocean voyages. When their ships sailed along the Hudson River into New York Harbor and the Statue of Liberty came into view, many new immigrants were filled with excitement. Having lived for generations under harsh conditions in Europe, arriving in the free and open environment of the United States felt like entering a new world full of opportunities. In America, their talents were fully realized, and they quickly became one of the most successful and prosperous minority groups in society. Upon arrival, Eastern European Jews generally settled in major cities along the East Coast, especially New York City. By 1920, the Jewish population in New York alone had reached 1.75 million, nearly one-third of the city's total population. Several factors explain this concentration. Most of these Jews had previously lived in urban areas in Eastern Europe and had no agricultural skills, making rural life impractical. They were largely devout and observant Jews who could maintain their religious practices, such as regular synagogue attendance, kosher dietary laws, and marrying within the faith, only in cities with large Jewish communities. The westward expansion of the United States had largely ended, limiting opportunities for settlement elsewhere, so immigrants had to seek work and opportunities in industrialized cities. Nearly half of the new immigrants settled in New York and its surrounding areas, often living in poverty. Many concentrated in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, where the population density was high and Yiddish was the predominant language. Some immigrants never learned English. With limited education and skills, early immigrants could mainly find work in manual labor, and a significant number worked in garment factories owned by earlier German Jewish immigrants. These factories had low wages and long hours, living at the bottom of the social hierarchy. Combined with the spread of socialist ideas among the immigrants, led to the rapid adoption of socialist movements among American Jewish immigrants in the early 20th century. Jewish workers established labor unions and associations to advocate for better wages and working conditions, becoming a leading force in the American labor movement. Unlike Europe, the United States lacked entrenched conservative powers and strong religious institutions, so societal prejudice against Jews was relatively limited. While some discriminatory measures existed in certain regions, the overall environment was more tolerant. In the 1920s, there were brief periods of anti-immigrant sentiment and some racist organizations, but these restrictions were soon curtailed. Despite the hardships faced by early immigrants, most gradually improved their living conditions and integrated into mainstream society. Some became small business owners, others gradually established their own small enterprises, and many moved out of overcrowded neighborhoods into better areas. Jewish families placed a strong emphasis on education, and the second and third generations generally received higher levels of education than the American average. This produced many successful and prominent individuals in politics, business, finance, education, law, journalism, academia, and the arts. They have held positions such as mayors, governors, members of Congress, Supreme Court justices, cabinet ministers, and even Secretary of State. Within 2 or 3 generations, Jews became one of the most successful and affluent minority groups in the United States. In this favorable environment, between the late 19th and mid-20th centuries, just 50 to 60 years, the Jewish population in the United States grew from 200,000 to 6 million. The center of the Jewish world gradually shifted from Europe to the United States. Between the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Jewish migration from Europe to the Americas completed another major demographic shift. This migration not only provided a new land for survival and growth, but also meant that when Europe faced severe challenges in the 1930s and 1940s, at least 1/3 of the Jewish population was safely living in the Americas, avoiding catastrophic losses.